All right, welcome back. Hello, everyone. Oh, wait. Okay, cut. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Beauty as a Birthright. Today, we have writer Kyle Yoshioka, who is the editor and content manager of Influential Point. They also identify as a biracial, non-binary, and neurodivergent queer person. This has given them an intimate understanding of how interpersonal, intergenerational, and intercultural factors influence health. Their ultimate goal is to help you both honor and detangle the ways in which you have adapted to a weird and sometimes vicious world. Welcome, Kyle. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yay, applause, applause.
I can't wait to talk to you. So, we open all of our episodes by asking our guests, what is the most beautiful thing about you today?
Oh my gosh.
There's your place to shine.
Yeah, I'm just gonna start weeping.
Aw.
Wow. Today I would say I'm finding beauty in my ability to just be resilient in the face of things that are both annoying and mundane, and also sort of more, I don't know, cosmic and large. So it takes like an equal amount of energy to deal with both sometimes, and I'm finding that capacity that I have both surprising and beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that. It's just existing.
Yeah. It's also tax season, so that has something to do with it.
Yeah.
So, Kyle, in addition to being biracial, you also identify as non-binary, neurodivergent, queer person. And these identities are very fluid and dynamic. And so I'm curious to know, how has each of these intersectional identities shaped or are shaping the way you see beauty in yourself or in others, or just like in general?
That's a good question. And it is really fluid.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, at times I think it makes it hard to find like mileposts or anchors in that way. So, I mean, I think it informs everything about me, not just like my perception of beauty, but I think like being in a kind of intersection within an intersection is really fertile ground for like creative ways to understand how things work. Like you kind of don't have the benefit of like relying on an artifice or like, I don't know, like a shallow stereotype or like a kind of idea of how things are supposed to work. It's like going into it, I'm often like already kind of having to negotiate my own presence, or like how much space I'm taking up or how I can occupy space, both like I'm half Japanese, half white.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like, I don't know, even from like an early age, like my acceptance has been conditional in a way, like from family stuff to like spaces where like oppressed people, marginalized people have space to just be themselves. Like I'm always sort of questioning where I belong in that. And I think it's it's good to have that self-inquiry kind of baked in, but it also makes things feel very conditional or like fragile, maybe more fragile. I don't take things for granted around how I occupy space. So I think for a long time that affected how I saw my own beauty. Like it made me feel like first of all, that I couldn't really have the luxury to think about that. Like I was more thinking about how do I exist? And I think at that time when I was younger, like, and maybe like, around puberty and early 20s, was like, I can't really even think about something that felt as like abstract as beauty. It was more like, how do I get through this? Or how do I how do I take up space?
Yeah.
And then as I got older, I realized that, I mean, I'm a Taurus, like I have a strong aesthetic sense and need. And I realized that
Strong aesthetic
beauty,
need. Luxury.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yes, yeah, it's definitely a luxury, and I think in other ways too. But I'll take luxury. But it's like I realized at some point that beauty is not like frivolous or even like abstractness. You can take it to an abstract level, but like there's something very nourishing about beauty, and that can be an entry point into like how you, I don't know, how you frame your existence on some level. And so at a certain point, yeah, like it clicked for me that actually like having some kind of appreciation for beauty, which I think can encompass like an aesthetic appreciation of life, it like makes life worth living on some level. So it's made me really lean into that realization, and really like not made me, or made me unable to take it for granted, if that makes sense. It's kind of a
Yeah.
long-winded
It
explanation, but
reminds me a
it all
lot.
comes together.
It reminds me of like some of the things that you said reminded me of one of our previous guests, Jamie, who is non-binary, trans, queer. And he talked a lot about this idea of space, kind of what you touched upon, but like space. And sometimes it's some people don't have the space to really fully show up as a beautiful person or experience beauty. And and sometimes expressing your beauty is not safe for some people. And so do you feel that way, or have you, and then it also made me think like, do people who are marginalized, and there are intersectional identities over intersectional identities, have to create their own space and hope that people join their space, or maybe space is more fluid?
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I think I think beauty can be dangerous, right? Like there's power in beauty, and I think like it certainly is a compelling and attractive force. And if you occupy an identity that people find threatening, or that they're projecting insecurity or fear onto, then yeah, if you are beautiful and you are like embodying all of the power of that, you're not inherently threatening, but like in a practical way you are, and you're kind of put into a position of having to, yeah, make your own space, defend your space, and whether that be like a literal physical kind of thing, which is absolutely plausible and happens, but also in a representational way, in like like a media sense, or like representation of yourself, the visibility kind of piece of representation and equity. That's kind of on a psychological level a way that I don't know, it's hard to access beauty if you have never seen it modeled, how someone in your position can occupy it. Not that that's impossible, but it is another step. And I think it's a really valuable, fertile step. Obviously, like people who are in marginalized or oppressed identity groups are, some of the most creative people, and I think there's a reason for that. It shouldn't have to be that way, but it is a constraint that does, I think, it just necessitates making things that are beautiful. There's like another reason to live,
So how much of you, like growing up, it sounds like time was spent really trying to figure out your identities or your place or where that falls, and so you didn't necessarily have the space and freedom to then explore what beauty meant under all of those identities. But now that you're older, and it sounds like you've really settled into how you see yourself and how you present yourself, how much of you does have now all that freedom and space to now explore your beauty? And then how much of you is still kind of conditioned to take pause and evaluate, your place, your space, what you're free to do, what you feel like you're not, etc.?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think both are present. They're in a dialogue with each other more than when I was younger. I do feel kind of a liberty to I think I frame it now as being like, really super confident or like pathologically confident. I use that phrase around myself sometimes. Like I don't have a
Wait,
lot of
hold on.
self-consciousness
What
anymore.
does
Yeah.
pathologically confident mean? How do you define
I
that?
think
Because
like,
I'm like, maybe I
well,
have this.
I think I mean I've used that phrase to describe myself a lot, and I think it means like in spite of everything, somehow delusionally you remain confident, despite like being like, I don't know, tamped down at times. Like there's a sort of unflappable, um, I don't know, not illogical, but like improbable kind of confidence. Um,
But there's
and I think,
resilience there. There's like a
yeah,
lot
for
of
sure.
resilience.
And a lot
Yeah.
of self-induced delusion that you're willing to admit. I have this.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
sounds
Oh, yeah.
familiar.
Well, it's like fully like I am a like dyed in the wool contrarian. Like I love to like go against popular opinion, or like I'm not a devil's advocate, but like if I believe in something and I have the ability to debate and defend it, I will. And especially when it's things like when it's like this kind of thing, when I don't know, being messaged that I shouldn't be confident for whatever reason. It like lights some kind of fire in me to be able to be like, oh, you think that? Well, I have news for you. I
Where
think
does
that's like
that
part
come
of it.
from? Were you
I don't
always
know.
like this?
Yeah, I've been stubborn, and like I have a lot of anger, I think. And I think
Yeah.
that's a positive thing ultimately. I didn't used to
Yeah.
think that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I have some kind of fire that I can access. It's like I think it's partly because like I presented pretty young for a long time. Like people would underestimate my age a lot and kind of infantilize me. And so to compensate for that, I would be like, I don't know, I have a big vocabulary, I read a lot of books instead of making friends, and so like I could like project this like precocious confidence when people were diminishing my physical presence. And I think part of it is that too. So it's like a lot defined by like defiance and like projection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm answering the original question, but that was a good tangent.
Do you
I mean,
have that page?
Yeah.
This like, how do you call it? Pathological confidence?
Mm.
I don't think so.
Because Paige is like, no, I'm just really confident. Like, this
Yeah.
is me. There's nothing pathological about this.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
funny because like I asked Paige one time, because I'm so into cults, right? Like, oh God, like all the cult podcasts, anything occult related, I'm just like obsessed with. And I'm always thinking, like, could I possibly join a cult? You know, because I'm always
Or be a
looking for
cult leader.
community, right? Well, here's the thing. I was like, I could totally see myself joining a cult up until the point where they start taking away your protein or messing with your sleep or suggesting we should drink this drink. And then I'd just be out of there. And I'd wake up and I'd be like, done, I'm out of here. And then I asked Paige this question. She's like, no, I don't think I could ever join a cult. She's like, but I think I could be a cult leader.
Yeah.
And that just changed my perception of her, that I love her even more for that.
That's very Virgo energy too. That's great.
Yes. I'm also a tiger.
Oh, cool.
Too,
Yeah.
Kyle.
Yeah.
So that's right. Yeah. That's the tiger energy. And then I was like, I'd probably join Paige's cult. Like, I'd probably be in it.
You are in the cult.
Love it.
You have no freedom in this podcast. Okay, so something that I'm really interested in, Kyle, because I am biracial, and in the intake form, you share that you feel and you use the word extremely biracial. And so I'm super curious how this feeling came about and whether it's a reflection of equal cultural influences growing up in the household, and then how this reflects in your perception of beauty and your appearance. Like, do you also see yourself as quote unquote extremely biracial physically, apart from feeling this way? So this is something I'm really interested in.
Yeah. I mean, it's very on brand for me to have a very polarizing statement like that. But the extremely thing is like it's a factor or a function of like feeling very displaced for so long and like not knowing where I resided, and like fluctuating throughout my life between identifying more like as a white person and then more as an Asian person, and like kind of flip-flopping back and forth in this really disjointed way, which I mean it was for a good reason. Like my family of origin, there's a lot of like race-based conflict around like the white side of my family, a little racist, the Japanese side of my family also a little racist, and like my parents being kind of like a weird defiance of that as well. Like I don't know, when they were together, the court case that made interracial marriage legal had only happened maybe like 2 decades before. And so like they were, I don't know, I'm sure they got shit about it. And can I swear? Is that okay?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Great. Yeah, so there was a lot of tension growing up, not that any of it was ever acknowledged, but a lot of tension around race and around how their two families were like kind of in stark opposition to one another.
How did they meet? Your parents?
My mom was my dad's karate instructor.
Okay, and your mom is white?
Both of my parents are black belts. My mom,
whoa,
second degree black belt, and my dad is, I think he's testing for his sixth degree. But my mom is a better practitioner than my dad. Yeah, so that's how they met. So kind of a fun, unlikely story, but yeah, I don't know. I guess I just feel like this distillation of like a lot of intergenerational, intercultural tension resulted in me. And then I had to kind of like, I feel like a mission of my life is like exorcising a lot of trauma that was passed on to me. And that's part of it for sure. Like my inheritance is like reconciling, or I don't know, maybe that's a big ask of me, but like at least living with some kind of resolution or peace around the fact that the constituent parts of me are kind of in direct opposition with one another. So that's internally, that's like spiritually or cosmically, that's like kind of what I mean by that. And then in the reality of living between those two worlds, and the fact that those two worlds never felt congruent, yeah, it threw me for a loop for so long around like how to identify and how to think of myself. And so at a certain point I was like, actually I'm neither Japanese or white, I'm this third thing. And that's how I could be at peace with the fact that I felt fractured in a way. And so the resolution of it is just like, okay, well, I am neither, I'm another thing entirely. And I find that, I mean, I think a kind of blind spot for non-Asian American people, I should specify, is like the huge difference between like generations of Asian American families, the difference between being Asian from Asia and Asian American, the differences between Asian cultures within the culture. It's like, it's a huge, like it's a melting pot within a melting pot.
And the two different coasts and Hawaii.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh my gosh.
There's so much, so many points of differentiation. And I think like having a biracial background is another thing entirely, and it's informed by, you know, what generation you are, what coast you're on,
social classes, like rich,
class,
super rich
sure.
Asians. I'm like, wow, y'all are different league.
I can't relate. If only. So it's I think when I say extremely biracial, it's like it feels very much like an inheritance and a coping mechanism, and just like a statement of reality too. And the like, it's a sort of statement around refusing to kind of code switch that much. Like, I don't know. I'm just going to be who I am, and I'm not going to like make people feel more I don't feel any drive to make people feel comfortable around my intersections. And I don't feel a drive to make myself more legible for people for the sake of convenience.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's like, my mind is so blown. Oh, I have so much to say about that. But I'm also curious because Paige, you're biracial and you're multicultural. And so does, when Kyle was explaining all of this, does this resonate with you? Have you had similar thoughts?
So the nice thing about Hawaii is we do have like a third and fourth identity outside of if you're biracial. So you two probably heard the word hapa, which is mixed. It's when like typically Asian mixes with what we call haole, which is basically white. And so we can say hapa haole or hapa. So you can also just fall under that identity and you don't have to worry about which two made you hapa. So that's nice. And then the fourth is just local. So local people are very mixed here. They'll have Hawaiian, they'll have Portuguese, they'll have different types of Asian, they'll have some haole. So you can also just be seen as local. And we can really discern who's local and who's not. I mean, you could be mixed and be in Hawaii, but we know you wouldn't be local depending on how you dress, carry yourself, talk, and act.
Oh.
And yeah,
when I went to Hawaii, they thought I was a local.
Oh my God.
Everywhere I went.
That's
so I was like,
impressive.
Yes, I know. That is very impressive.
Yeah. Pathological confidence.
There we go. There it is.
Shining through my sunscreen.
I'm just joking. So I didn't have to straddle that too much. But my dad's side of the family who lives on the US mainland and my mom's side of the family who's Chinese local in Hawaii, when we would go to my dad's side of the family, it would always be a cultural shock. We'd always go to Colorado, which at the time was very, very white. And I just remember there were times when we would do road trips. And if we stopped at a gas station, my dad, who's white, would have to read the gas station to think about whether or not like my mom, my brother, and I could come out of the car. And I think too, because there's a lot of reservations like where we would be nearby. So he wasn't just worried that we would be discriminated because we were Asian, but he also didn't know if we'd be discriminated because people would think we were Native American. And so those were the two things that were always on the back of his mind when we would take these road trips out west and the Rocky Mountain West mainly. So anyway, that's when it was like a big like, oh, this is, and I just remember small things like we'd stop at a restaurant and they wouldn't have rice. And I would be like, what kind of place is this? They don't have like, who doesn't have rice? Like those little things that I was so young, but I still understood. Like I was completely in a different place at that, in that moment. So, but yeah, I had a few other identities to fall on and I didn't have to just be these polarizing like Chinese and white. So I think that's where Kyla and I have the difference.
The Hawaiian culture. That's when I went to Hawaii, I went to this diner. I don't know why we were there, but they had like the buffet. It was just, like kind of just like the Holiday Inn kind of diner kind of thing, nothing fancy. And they had the buffet thing and there was kimchi. And I was like, where am I? Like it freaked me out because it was like, oh, I'm in a different part of world here. Oh, I love Hawaiian culture. Oh, we should all just move there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to take a quick turn from this awesome, like heavy conversation we've been having, very intellectual, to thirst pics.
Yay.
Yay. Well, I mean, what a great transition from beauty to thirst pic.
It's so easy pivot. Yeah.
So where I've been working on in terms of like my beauty journey and all of this is like I've been really reflecting on the fact that I don't really understand sensuality and intimacy. I know a lot about sexuality and right. But I think because I've always been sexually open, like it's never been this like read my chart. It's just never been like a thing for me. It's like, yes, try everything. If it's great, try it again. If it's not that great, try one more time and make sure that it's not that great for you, you know? But as I've gotten older and like I've had other issues, I was just like, I don't know what it really means to be sensual and intimate and sexual, like maybe all of those things at the same time. And it's just something I've been really reflecting on, like, what does this mean for myself? What does it mean when I'm with someone? And so Kyle, I love that you post thirst pics. and I was telling Paige, like, I know what your ass looks like. I have no idea what your knees look like.
Priorities.
Yes. And like, I don't know, I love that you just put it out there and it's super sexy. It's very intimate. It's very sensual. It's very tongue in cheek. It's like, you also are kind of self-deprecating too, which I love. And so I'm wondering, like, I also think it's very courageous of you to do this. But also because we're yeah. And so I'm wondering, like, are these like, do you put a lot of thought? Like, what's the process of like taking the photos and then, like, I want to break it down.
I love this question. Yeah, I'm not a hero, but yeah, I will show my ass. Wow, this is a really good question. Okay, so yeah, I think a lot of thought goes into it. And yeah, there's a lot of calibrating, like, what's the composition of the photo? I should say I don't take the photos generally. I have a friend, David Hazeltine, who is a photographer.
Oh, so you need a good friend who knows your angles.
Number one, you need a good photographer.
Yeah, and it can give you some creative direction.
Yeah, if the content's not there, then don't even start there. Make the content unimpeachably good. I would say, like, you can always lean on that, and that's like a function of taste and that confidence that we were talking about. Like, anyone can take a good thirst trap. Like, there is I don't believe in any normativity around thirst traps or photos that make you feel hot. If you feel hot, that's the only thing that matters. Let's just say that. Because yeah, thirst traps are transcendent. It's very like
that's all going to be on our merch.
Yeah.
Give me the royalties. So what goes into it? I mean, yeah, finding the content that really works for you, that resonates with you is one thing. And I think, like, I don't know, it's a process of getting to know yourself too. Like, what are your assets, and more than that, what do you think is hot about you, and how do you show that to other people? It's like, I don't know, Instagram is such garbage, and like, you might as well have some fun because it's like all a dumpster fire anyway. So a level of shamelessness is helpful, I would say. But the way that I like try to have a little bit of control over how my image is consumed, which is kind of a fool's errand, but like, nonetheless, I like to have a little bit of like tongue-in-cheek, like, framing, like some clever caption or something contextually that like works to add some flavor to the image. If it were just like a disembodied, but like, I don't know, it's not that interesting to me.
Like a booty shot, and then your caption says like, make sure you meditate every day.
Right, like whatever. Like, God, it's so like, it's so transparent when people do that too. It's like, just show. It doesn't. You don't have to like make this virtuous. Like, what are we doing here? You know what you're doing. We know what you're doing. You don't have to temper. Don't temper the message. You know what I'm saying? I would love it just blunt. Like, I look fucking hot today, and I decided to take this picture, and you're welcome. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's that. I cancel me. I don't like Schitt's Creek that much, but I do like the character of Moira, and she has some quote that's like, "When you're young, like take a whole bunch of photos of yourself, and then look back on it when you're older and don't feel as hot, and like realize that you were super hot or whatever." It's like, that's it. Like, I tell Paige all the time, like, oh my God, when I was younger, I was so hot. And it's like,
I mean, I lived my life. Like I have no regrets. I'm
Mhm.
surprised I'm still alive. I should be dead. And I had so
Beautiful.
much fun, but I should have probably pushed it even more
And
thinking about
documented
it. And that would probably be like really shocking. But now that I'm
Mhm.
older, I'm like, oh my God, I'm still cute now. So
Of
I
course you
should
are.
be taking all these photos and like just, owning myself. So then when I'm
Mhm.
60 and I realize, oh, I'm also cute at 60,
Mhm.
like, but look
Yep.
back and be like, and I think that's what I love about your photos, because it's like a reminder of like, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm
Like,
yeah.
okay.
No, I was gonna ask Kyle. I'm interested when you put them out there. So I understand where you're coming from leading up to the post. And then once it's out there, are you hoping or like wanting or wishing for some specific type of feedback based on how you
Mm,
came into that photo? Or are you completely
mm,
just like, here we go, whatever comes of this, I will accept and I'm happy with. And I did like my thing.
mhm.
Like what's that process, the post process?
Yeah. It's I'm doing some self-examination around that, but I'm pretty sure it's mostly the latter. Like if I'm putting it out there, it's of high quality. Like it's like it's
Love
for
it.
me,
Mhm.
and like even if I get like negative, I've never gotten like negative criticism or like delete this or whatever, which I'm grateful for. But even if I did, I think it would be like, no, like I think it's good. So like your negative comment is nothing to me.
Mhm.
So like it is a lot of that premeditated work around like I don't post things that I don't feel very like secure in posting, and that like no matter who sees it, it's good, like it's of enough quality and enough thought that like I don't know, I'm proud of all of them. Like it doesn't really I enjoy, I guess, the validation that comes with it. Um, and it took me a while to get there, honestly, but it's like a definite like boost. But ultimately, yeah, it is very much like I'm doing this for myself, and I know that it's good. If you can't also see that it's good, then that's not my problem.
Mhm.
I love. Wait, do you like getting validation?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Some people
Um,
don't. So now I've been asking
hmm,
people. It
that's
all
interesting.
your
Yeah.
story also reminds me of, there's this musician, Troy Sivan,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
Mm,
so there was this leak of his nude photos.
mm,
And they asked their manager, or the manager was like, it might come out on the internet,
mm.
like you have these nude photos. And they were like, does it look good?
So, yeah, exactly. Like,
And like
if
they did not
I,
care. If it's look good,
yeah,
then great.
yeah. If my nudes ever leak, they exist. If they ever leak, it's a similar thing of like, okay, like, I don't know, I've done nothing wrong, and
Post
they're
the good
hot.
ones.
So yeah, like I don't share anything that's not like very good. So what's the problem? I know what the problem is, like in a practical way, but um, I think we're at a point culturally where we understand that like um, I don't know, our image is not completely under our own domain, and people
Mhm.
who like maliciously share things that were not consented to being shared beyond that connection is bad. So like I think luckily we're in a place where I would hope that it would condemn the person breaking that trust more than the person sharing. I think
Yeah.
I don't know, I might be a little delusional about that, but I think it's at least we're kind of trending positively in that way.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
wonder if it
Yeah.
would be different if, like, I wonder if the positive responses that you get are different because you're queer, you're non-binary, and
Mhm.
if it would be different if it's like a pretty girl, like a woman,
Oh,
like.
absolutely. Yeah. I'm sure it would be. And like I present
Mhm.
masculine, I
Mhm.
think. I don't know. It goes back and forth sometimes. But yeah, I'm sure I'm definitely speaking from a place of privilege with like, yeah, leak my nudes, whatever. Like it's a very I don't think it's necessarily unearned, but it's definitely like from a place of privilege that I can say that. I'm not encouraging anyone to leak my nudes. Not saying that, but if there happened to be a breach of trust in that way, like at least I know that like I look hot, so could be worse, I suppose. Yeah. But it's certainly a fragile and a delicate thing to talk about, like how your image is disseminated and like who sees it and the kind of leap of faith that you have to take when you're sharing it. So
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to understate that.
Remember,
Right.
like a couple years ago, there was this like hashtag trend of like women doctors in bikinis or bathing suit. Like apparently there was a doctor who posted like
I
herself,
remember this.
right? And then all these doctors started posting up pictures of
Oh,
themselves.
yeah.
Like it was a big thing,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that
yeah.
she was in a bikini on Instagram.
Mhm.
And it was like, I think nothing salacious, like just like a holiday photo or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just, it's so interesting. Paige, would
Yeah.
you post a thirst pic? Are we going to post a thirst pic now for the podcast?
Oh my God. My influence.
I was just thinking, Kyle, as you were sharing about the process, and I'm like picturing, I don't know, just kind of like fantasizing being on one of your shoots. I was thinking like what mine would look like what my
yeah.
equivalent would be.
Let's get into it.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
let's get to it now.
Yeah, I have my ring light. Oh my
Paige, you know
gosh.
I would be there with you with the fan and the filter. Like I am your partner in this.
Yeah.
So, okay, but Kyle, so speaking of like embodying yourself, I wanted to talk about karate and how you shared that that's how your parents met. It seems like it's a big part of your family of origin, does derive from Japanese culture. And we talked, about your biracial identity, but I'm more curious about how it's shaped your life story, your beauty aspect. And like my impression of it is it does incorporate a lot of mind and body control, maybe equally, like equal parts.
Totally.
So I wanted to hear more about that.
Yeah. I've been thinking about it a lot lately. And yeah, it was really foundational. I mean, yeah, it's the reason why it's the reason why I exist in a weird way, which is strange to think about, pointing to something concrete like that. And yeah, the irony being that I didn't like it when I was doing it. Like I started at a young age and did it for about a decade. And my dad was my teacher, which maybe was part of it. It's a complicated relationship to have with your father. But I mean, like, yeah, my youth was spent like going to karate tournaments and like traveling around. And before I was competing in them myself, really being in that environments. So in a lot of like gymnasia and like random venues where there would be tournaments where people from all over the nation, all over the world, really would congregate for this practice. And so, yeah, it was a lot of my upbringing was around that and in that environment. And then when I started to practice myself, I was, gosh, I think I was like 8 or 9. I loved parts of it. I hated other parts of it. What you mentioned, Paige, like the mind body, like the concentration that comes from like a somatic practice was really appealing to me. And I really enjoyed the kata, the forms, and I hated the kumite, the sparring, where you had to like actually like have an opponent or whatever. Like
I don't like that.
It was not for me.
For anything.
It was really, yeah.
I just want to learn the skills and like do it, but I don't want you coming at me.
Yeah, same. And like, yeah, and I went to tournaments a lot, and I would place really highly in the kata categories, and then would not place at all in the other ones. It was very stark. Like I like this, and I don't like this, and I'm not want to. That like stubborn contrarian thing was present even when I was that age. It was like I don't want to do this. My heart wasn't in it. But like, it's been really pivotal, and I think like often I like forgot it. I think I forgot that was an important part of my childhood, because I would look back at my childhood like post facto and be like, oh, I was like such a sedentary kid. I didn't really do anything. I wasn't in my body, but I had this like 10 years of practice around martial arts, which absolutely was an embodied practice. But I just sort of, I think it was so ingrained in me that I didn't realize that it was a thing that I was intentionally doing. And I've had some kind of movement practice for my whole life. So it's definitely laid a foundation for that. And yeah, I think particularly with karate, it was like a kind of like stoic, there's a really stoic beauty to it.
Yeah.
It's like it's a kind of minimalism, it like an economy of movement that I think is really beautiful, and like this dedication to like having a peaceful intent, but being able to defend yourself in the case of necessity. So like never being aggressive, but always like having the, I don't know, the esteem to carry yourself through a conflict and the tools to be able to like, I don't know, prevent undue harm to yourself, I think is really, really important. And yeah, it's definitely a through line for my life to that kind of like, there's a confidence that comes from that. There's a kind of like austerity or like essential, you're like a refinement to the essential that I think is kind of a value that I hold still.
Speaking of mind and body, you also just started doing pole dancing class.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I need to know everything because I've been wanting to do this for so many years. And trying to find the right studio. Well, Paige and I are both dancers. Like we come from dance background. Cool, yeah. I've been to many strip clubs. I don't know if that like adds to the value of this.
Yeah, that'll help. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But I think I'm looking for like the right type of studio and the right type of teacher. And I haven't found one, but also I'm terrified because I have zero core strength and zero upper body strength. And I know that is like, I can twerk upside down on the wall. Yeah. I thought I couldn't. And then I took a class and I was like, oh, this is very easy because I have very strong thighs and booty, but upper body and core, this is what you need for pole. And so tell me, like, what made you decide to start like learning this, and like, how has this like impacted the way you think about your body and beauty maybe?
Yeah. Well, I would first say, like, if you want to build core and arm strength, then you should take a pole class.
No.
You can take a pole class when I'm coming to visit. Just saying, if you want to do that.
I got the heels. I was telling in the Jamie episode, like I bought these heels before pandemic, and they're like Michelle Pfeiffer Scarface vibes, like super high gold, kind of trashy. I love like intentional trashy stuff.
Absolutely.
And I haven't worn them because then we got into a pandemic. And so I can't live out my fantasy of being like a Coke dealer's girlfriend. Like, but if we do the full dancing class, then I can wear it there.
Yes. Yeah. That's a really strong aesthetic. Also, I like that a lot. Yeah, it's been I'm very, very novice. Like it's been a couple months. So like I don't really know what I'm talking about, but yeah, it's been incredible. It's so much fun. It's like,
what made you decide to start it? Or is it something you've always wanted to do? Or
I've wanted to do it for a while. I don't think I could identify why. I've done like hip hop classes sometimes through my life, but that didn't feel quite it for me. And I have a fair amount of like facility and strength from yoga. I've done yoga for 12 years or so, and was an instructor. So like I had the kind of like I have the body knowledge or like the kinesthetic awareness that I think helps with that. I don't have a dance background, but I think that helped. And I don't know. I just think it's really, I've always been like so impressed by dancers, strippers, whatever they call themselves in their profession. Just like the strength involved and like the way that you make things look easy and comfortable, even though I know now from firsthand experience that it is extremely painful and extremely difficult. And so like I have an interest in that way. I've also one of my former partners is a ballet dancer, was a ballet dancer. And just like such incredible physical ability, and I have several friends through him in the ballet world from that, and always felt like so in awe of them, but also like that context was not for me, like a classic dance studio environment with like the mirrors and you're doing, I don't know, like that.
It's intense. I remember my ballet teacher when I was young, you could still hit students and she would whack us. She had her stick. And we were like, 7.
Yeah, not great. But yeah, so like I don't know. I'm a pretty like informal person, and I'm like more comfortable in a strip club kind of setting than I am in like a very like formal, whatever, academic-y kind of setting. So like it was sort of this confluence of factors of like interest and like wanting to do something that's like a challenge and like interestingly engaging for the body. And I think it's really hot too. Like it's like having I think one thing that I didn't realize that I really wanted from like a physical practice is something that was mostly just aesthetic, because everything else, every other movement practice that I've had, there's like a purpose behind it, or like this like underlying whatever, this intention or purpose. And not that pole doesn't have a purpose, but like there is such a strong emphasis of like, how do you look? What are your lines like? Can you make this climb or this spin look effortless? And it's like really a focus on like how it looks and the way that you carry yourself as a dancer. And I think that I really craved that, because there's something really beautiful about that.
And that look is very different for each body. Right? Yeah, you can do the same spin. Cool. It looks very different.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I've noticed that from classes too. It's like, and not only is it different, it's like, it all looks great. Like you look so good no matter what you're doing. Or no matter what your body is like, if you're doing a spin and you can do it with some level of dexterity, like you look amazing. So it's such a cool thing. It's a cool and meaningful thing to be able to like focus your body, focus your like physical awareness, physical existence into something that's just purely for like looking good and hot and like expressing yourself. Like that is the purpose. And that's the only purpose really. And it's a difference from the other practices that I've had. And I think it's just like, it's so rad.
When else do we get that chance to do that? Exactly. I got to think about this. Paige, have you ever thought about doing a pole dancing class?
So I did do pole dancing.
Yes.
Oh my God.
In the Bay Area with another mom who was a ballet teacher. And so she's a mother of 2. I have 1. And so we would meet, I think it was like Tuesday and Thursday nights, like from 7 to 9 or 7:30 to 9. And we'd do our pole class and we would film each other. And so my background actually was as a gymnast, and then dance. Just after retiring, you could say dance was kind of second nature after all of the training I had as a gymnast. So pole was actually really, I mean, I don't know, now it's been like 3 years, but at the time it was pretty easy for me.
Wow.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Okay, wait, so I need to know from both of you, what is your pole dancing song?
Oh God. Yeah.
What is your pole dancing song? And like, what is your theme? Like, what are you wearing? Like, what's your brand on the pole?
I feel like mine is like the Rihanna. What's that song that's like, come on, rude boy, once you get it out.
Oh, you're a fast beat. Okay. I love it. And then like, what are you wearing? Like, what's your costume or?
Oh, I was always just like in boy shorts and a tank, like a crop tank and heels.
But I mean, like if you were at a strip club, this would be your outfit.
Oh,
with that song.
Probably a leotard because I was a gymnast for so long.
That's so cool.
Oh, very nice. Oh, maybe with the ribbons. Like everybody needs an accessory.
Oh my God. You could get one with like cutouts. Yeah. Really popular right now. That'd be so cool.
Or like 80s themes, super high cut and like super sexy. Oh, I love this.
So what about you, Kyle? What's your song and your outfit?
Yes. Okay. So Tamsin asked me this recently, and I've been thinking about it. I don't know if I can name a specific song, but the artist is Doja Cat for sure.
Yeah.
They're, I think specifically something off of Amala, one of her albums. And I think it's that because like she's very chaotic and has a lot of like variety even in her songs, and I think I would thrive on that. I like I really like a high concept absurd thing. And so I think similarly I would have something like that with my routine. Like I would do weird shit really well. Like I'd probably do like a little floor work or something, like make some kind of weird crazy shapes, but like do it with a high degree of like execution. And what would I wear is a good question. I think I mean not a lot, but I think it would be pretty minimal. I might have some like eye makeup or something. Maybe like, I don't know, something minimal but expensive looking. Like, I don't know, some nice briefs, or like maybe a jockstrap. I don't know if that's too much. It's not too much. I could wear something like that.
It's your fantasy. It's your world.
It's my fantasy, yeah. some like expensive, understated thing, I think, and just like let the movement speak for itself.
Yes, high fashion.
Yeah, have a concept. Don't distract from the concept. I think that's is my underlying principle.
Oh my God, I love this. This is so great. I learned so much about both of you. Thank you so much, Kyle, for joining us today.
My pleasure.
So before we end, we always kind of wrap this up. We learned so much about your beauty journey, and I'm wondering, how do you define beauty? So like, in other words, like, what is this beauty legacy that you want to leave behind?
Wow. Beauty legacy. I think that, I mean, okay, I think beauty is simultaneously a couple different things. I think one of the things is kind of all of the influences that we have absorbed, all of the like cultural messages around it, all of the things that we've internalized, whether they be good or bad. I think they encompass all of it. And it's the intersection of that with your own sense of your own identity and the ways that you bring forth your own confidence. So I think beauty is how those two things interact. And I think it's messy and complicated and encompasses both positive and negative aspects, but it comes together to form this unique existence. And I think that's really fundamentally beautiful. So I think my legacy around it, around beauty, would be to encourage people to embrace everything that comes together and converges to create their image and own it, because that's ultimately what it's about, is your own subjectivity and your experience of the complication and uniqueness that makes your beauty.
I love it.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Kyle, thank you so much again. And could you share with our listeners where people can find you and whether you have upcoming events that you'd like to share?
Yeah. So you can follow me on Instagram. My handle is
now after we drop that, you put thirst pics and
yeah, feel free to jump in my DMs. It's at Year of the Kyle on Instagram. I also have a newsletter through Substack. It's called
I love your newsletter.
Thank you. I talk about all manner of things, but specifically it's kind of through a lens of food, and I use food as a lens and a means through which to process my trauma.
Yeah, so we didn't get to talk about food, but I mean, also Kyle puts like these, they're just a really good writer, and there's anecdotes that you share about your life and then you relate it to food and these recipes, and it's a really good newsletter.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a little bit dormant, but I have things planned, so definitely sign up there, just like an email thing, and I won't bug you too much. but I will give you deep confessions into my life. But yeah, give me a follow, jump in my DMs, and yeah, hopefully see you around.
Awesome. For our listeners, you can find Kyle's information in our show notes. We're going to put it all in there. And be sure to check out our next episode where Paige and I chat about our convo with Kyle and unpack what we've learned about our own beauty legacy. So see you next time. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks, Kyle.